The FBI has solved over 1 million cases in its history. Organized crime, serial killers, terrorism, kidnappings, they crack the hardest cases on Earth. But this one broke them. Agents who worked it still lose sleep. Documents are sealed. Witnesses stopped talking decades ago. And the official response from the government? Silence. What you are about to hear is not a conspiracy theory. It is a documented, verified, and deeply disturbing case that the FBI has never closed, never solved, and never fully explained. Stay with me, because the deeper we go, the stranger it gets. Welcome back to Dark Files. I am your host, and tonight we are opening a folder that most people in power wish had never been created. The case of D.B. Cooper. November 24th, 1971. A man calling himself Dan Cooper boards Northwest Orient Flight 305 in Portland, Oregon. He is calm, polite even. He orders a bourbon and soda, hands a note to a flight attendant, and calmly informs the crew that he has a bomb in his briefcase. He is not panicking. He has a plan. Cooper demands $200,000 in cash, 4 parachutes, and a refueling truck waiting in Seattle. The airline pays every penny. The passengers are released. Plane takes off again into a dark, rainy Pacific Northwest night. Somewhere over the remote wilderness between Seattle and Reno, at 10,000 feet, in a raging storm, D.B. Cooper opens the rear stairs of the Boeing 727. Let us talk about what the FBI actually found, because the details are more bizarre than most fictional thrillers. First, the money. Cooper demanded the ransom in marked $20 bills. The FBI recorded every single serial number. For 9 years, not one bill surfaced anywhere in circulation. Banks, casinos, stores, foreign exchanges, nothing. Then in 1980, a young boy named Brian Ingram is digging along the banks of the Columbia River in Washington. His fingers hit something in the sand. 3 bundles of deteriorating cash. Investigators confirm the serial numbers match Cooper's ransom, 294 bills. That is roughly $5,880 out of $200,000. Where is the rest? Here is what makes this truly strange. The bills were found miles from where Cooper should have landed based on the flight path. The condition of the money suggested it had been buried for years, not recently deposited by flooding. Forensic analysts could not agree on how the money got there. Some believed the river carried it. Others believed someone placed it there deliberately. The FBI never reached a conclusion. The money remains the only physical trace of D.B. Cooper ever recovered. Now stop for a second, because most hijackers are impulsive, desperate, and sloppy. D.B. Cooper was none of those things. The FBI psychological profile described him as calm under extreme pressure, knowledgeable about aircraft, and familiar with the terrain he jumped into. He specifically requested the rear staircase of the 727, one of the only commercial aircraft at the time, with stairs that could be deployed mid-flight. He knew that. He knew the flight path. He knew approximate altitude windows. This was not a random act. This was rehearsed. Investigators believed Cooper had military parachute training, possibly special forces, or airborne infantry. They believed he had inside knowledge of how airlines handled ransom negotiations in the early 1970s. He wore a dark business suit, a black tie, and carried a plain briefcase. No identifying features beyond sunglasses and a description of dark complexion. Witnesses described him as between 40 and 50 years old, roughly 6 feet tall, approximately 170 to 180 pounds. That profile fits roughly 40 million American men. The FBI chased over 1,000 suspects. Every single one was eliminated. Here is where the case takes a turn that most mainstream coverage ignores entirely. In 2000, let us address the survival question directly. because it matters. The official FBI position for years was that Cooper almost certainly did not survive the jump. The terrain was remote wilderness. The temperature was brutal. The storm was violent. He had no survival gear beyond whatever he packed in a briefcase and a parachute that may or may not have been functional. One of the 4 parachutes given to Cooper was a dummy training chute that could not actually be deployed. If he grabbed that one by mistake, he fell 260 kilometers to his death in a Washington forest that has never given up a body. But here is the counter-argument that keeps investigators awake. No body was ever found. No parachute wreckage, no equipment, no bones, nothing. The Pacific Northwest wilderness is dense, but it is not bottomless. Hunters, hikers, and search teams have covered that region extensively for over 50 years. When people die in that wilderness, they are eventually found. D.B. Cooper has not been found, which means either he died in a location so remote it has never been accessed, or he walked out of that forest and disappeared into an ordinary life. And that second possibility is what the FBI cannot rule out. The FBI officially suspended active investigation in July 2016, citing resource allocation and lack of new credible leads. They stated they were redirecting focus toward counterterrorism and other priorities. But here is what they did not say. 45 years of investigation, thousands of suspect files, forensic leads that went nowhere, tips that evaporated. A case file so large it reportedly fills multiple storage rooms at FBI headquarters. And the decision to suspend? It came quietly, with a brief press statement and no press conference. Retired agents who worked the case have given interviews over the years describing a deep institutional frustration. Not just with the lack of answers, but with how the case seemed to resist every investigative tool they applied. Digital forensics, cold case DNA review, aircraft reconstruction modeling, behavioral analysis, all of it produced fragments, but never a complete picture. One retired agent described it as the one case that made him question whether some things are meant to stay unsolved. The FOIA requests filed by journalists and researchers over the years have returned heavily redacted documents, entire sections blacked out, not because of ongoing prosecution risk. There is no ongoing prosecution. The stated reason in many redaction notices is national security. A skyjacker from 1971 is a national security matter in 2024. Ask yourself why. Before we get to the conclusion, something worth thinking about. The investigators on this case spent years trying to protect sensitive communications, guard evidence trails, and prevent leaks that could compromise the investigation. In today's world, your personal data is just as exposed as any case file. Whoever D.B. Cooper was, he understood that anonymity was power. You should protect yours too. The link in the description will take you to a VPN service that encrypts your connection and keeps your browsing private. If this case taught us anything, it is that privacy matters. The investigators in this story used secure communication to protect sensitive leads. You should too. Check out the VPN linked below. Use the discount code in the description and take back your digital privacy today. Now back to the case. So where does this leave us? D.B. Cooper is either a skeleton somewhere in the forests of Washington state, never to be identified, or he is a ghost who pulled off the only unsolved commercial aircraft hijacking in American aviation history and lived out his days in complete anonymity. The FBI's silence on certain forensic findings, the redacted national security designations on 50-year-old case files, and the abrupt suspension of investigation without resolution all point to something more complicated than a dead end. They found something they are not telling us, or they are protecting something they do not want examined too closely. The titanium particles on that tie, the money that appeared miles from where it should have been, the parachute that was never found. None of it adds up cleanly, and that is precisely why this case endures, not as a romantic legend of a daring criminal, but as a reminder that the most powerful investigative agency in the world can be defeated by one prepared, determined, and anonymous individual. Whatever the truth is, it is buried somewhere in a government file marked with black ink and the word classified. And until that ink is lifted, DB Cooper wins. If you made it this far, you are exactly the kind of person this channel exists for. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and check out our playlist of unsolved government mysteries linked on screen right now. Drop your theory in the comments. Who was DB Cooper? Let us hear it. Disclaimer. This video discusses real events for educational purposes. Viewer discretion is advised. All persons are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.